aren't favorites in a football game, bet your 401k on it, people. That's free money. That is free money.
You even have
now.
We even have a bet with one of the listeners, right? I mean,
you're
taking
Cody
it
Hoagland?
that far. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have several bets on the Gophers over the next several years that should come to fruition, and I will be living well. I have a free trip to Fiji on the line. Can't wait to go to that. Shout out Andy Burns. You know, that'll be nice.
That's a big time bet, man. That is way more expensive than my blood.
I'm telling you, it's free money. It's free money.
Yeah,
the bet is that the Gophers do not win the Big Ten, including the championship game, for the next 20 years.
I mean, I think you're probably right. I think you're probably safe on that one. I mean, who knows? Things could change. Yeah, this team is young. It just seems like every year Gopher fans have some type of excuse. How about just like they got their butts kicked? They didn't play very well. Like it can never be just like, you know, the way that you just picked apart the Vikings. Like, oh gosh, you know, there's things that are concerning, but I'm still optimistic. It's never just like practical like that. It's just excuse after excuse, and it's just at this point, you know, being around 28 years and being around the Gophers and actually growing up a Gophers fan. It gets old after a while. It really does.
Yeah, I don't even concern myself with the Gophers anymore.
They might win one more Big Ten game the rest of the year. That might be it. They might be a 4-win team this season. That's tough.
Whatever they do is not going to be relevant in the grand scheme of college football or sports in general. So I don't even. Last time I watched the Gopher football game, I don't even watch when Wisconsin plays them. I just wait. No, I did. I watched last year. Was last year? Where'd they play last year? Here or in Wisconsin?
I can't remember.
I can't either. But I always watch.
One year blends into the next year for me. I don't even know what I had for breakfast this morning. You know.
Facts.
Concussions, man. So. CTE. I shouldn't be joking about that, but I did have a lot of concussions. Yeah. You mentioned Andy Burns, though, one of our mutual friends. I had to talk him off the ledge yesterday when it comes to this Wolves situation and Jimmy Butler. This man is actively tweeting at the Timberwolves, like at Timberwolves on Twitter. Yo, Timberwolves, figure your lives out. Being a fan sucks right now. Andy Burns, like on his like actual account, like yo. Hey, Timberwolves, like they're going to be like, oh, listen, Andy Burns just tweeted us, and he's frustrated with he's taking hold. He's frustrated right now. We better
Andy's very persuasive. You never know.
Right.
You never know.
I mean, maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll work. But I texted him. I'm like, you know what? We all just got to have a little patience here. I actually don't fault Tibbs right now for the way that he's playing this because you can't take a bad return for a guy who's a top 10 NBA player. Okay?
What?
Miami wants to play hardball.
Oh, wait a minute. Time out. Hold the phone. Pause. What? A top what NBA player?
Okay, if not top 10, top 15. He's
no.
How is he not a top player in the NBA?
He is not a top 10 or 15 player. I love Jimmy Butler. He's amazing. Dope. Great player. He's not a top 15 player in the NBA. He's not Jimmy Butler's the best player on your team. You do not have a very good team.
Wow. That's strong right there, man.
You don't have a championship team. If he's the second best player, then you have a championship team. But if he's the best player, he's not KD, he's not Steph, he's not in that class of player. Like he's not top 10, not top 15. No chance. No way.
Well, so those other guys in the top 10, you mentioned like the top 5 right there. You know, like KD and Steph and those guys. Look at the top 5. But you know, Russ is probably top 10, right?
Yep.
I mean,
James Harden.
He's your number one player. You're probably not going to win a championship with Russ right now. You know, like you can make that argument with a couple guys in the top 10.
Russ just doesn't play. Russ just doesn't play. Point guards don't win championships in the NBA, generally speaking, if they're the best player on the team. So that's a little different.
Steph Curry.
Okay, who else? Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, arguably, but Magic had 3 Hall of Famers on his team too.
Chauncey Billups.
So, no, stop it. Rip Hamilton was the best player on that team. Don't do that. And Rasheed Wallace is probably second best. So
all right.
Don't do that. Right. Don't say Tony Parker. Anyway, continue.
Tony Parker.
Tony
One
Parker
of those
was never
championships was Tony
he was he was never the best player on the
God,
team.
you were
The
such
only
a
case
hater, man.
the
Such a
only
hater.
case you could make was maybe 2014 potentially, but he wasn't the best player on that team either. But I'm sorry.
We have gotten so sidetracked on the original
Yes.
topic, which is
Sorry.
Jimmy Butler. Okay, regardless of if he's a top 10 player or a top 25 NBA player. You can't argue that he's not in the top 25. He's in the
top 25 player. Top 25
okay,
player.
So he's a star. He's a two-way star in this league. And you can't just trade him because of the perception that your fan base is pissed. Oh, what a Timberwolves thing this is. Let it play out. If you want to play hardball and you're not getting the deal that you want or you think you deserve for your guy, then don't make the deal. How many times have the Wolves been pressured into making a bad deal, made that deal, and it's turned out to be a huge mistake? Okay, let's not let history repeat itself. If Tibbs wants to play hardball and says, all right, Jimmy, it's on you now. I can't find a deal that works for us. Come back and play or sit out and look like a jerk. Then that's fine with me. What's worse is trading him to the Heat for a bunch of dudes you don't want and then have a season where you miss the playoffs and you're stuck with those dudes forever. Play hardball. I'm all for it.
Yeah, to me, I think they should just straight up trade for Tobias Harris. I would trade Jimmy Butler straight up for Tobias Harris right now, today. Maybe even if you can get a pick in there, great. But I would trade Jimmy Butler for Tobias Harris straight up. The Timberwolves are built around Karl Towns. If Karl Towns turns into Karl Towns has the ability to be a top 5. He has top 5 talent. He's probably a top 10, top 15 player as is.
Towns will never have the work ethic or the defensive desire to be a top 5 player. Let's be real.
Carmelo was a top 5 player. Carmelo was a top 5 player for a good amount of time in the NBA, and people said the same thing about him. So, Karl Towns offensively, still he's 6'11" and can score. He can score 28, 30 a night.
He's great offensively.
If you're doing that, your defensive, wherewithal probably doesn't have to be that great if you're surrounded with the right people. So if Karl Towns turns into makes that Giannis type jump, then the Timberwolves have a chance. And if you put someone like Tobias Harris, who quite frankly, if Tobias Harris is on a winning team, people will start talking about Tobias Harris like he's just as good as Jimmy Butler. Tobias has never really been on a win, had a chance to be on a winning team. But that's a dude who's 6'8", 6'9", who could shoot it, he could score it, he could guard, and he works his ass off. So it's like
I do like Tobias Harris a lot. He's always been in poor situations. Like Detroit was not a good situation. Orlando was not a good situation. I think the Clippers is a little bit better fit for him. But I agree. If you put that guy with some other stars, like what Towns is and what Wiggins could be, Tobias could be a nice fit with those two guys.
Well, that's why people think Jimmy Butler is what he got to play second fiddle to Derrick Rose before he started getting hurt, and then he just made such big strides that he became the man in Chicago. But when Jimmy Butler was the man in Chicago, Chicago was not very good. So if you take a guy like Tobias Harris and make him second fiddle to Karl Towns, and they win, people are going to talk about Tobias Harris like he's a top 15 player, which he very well could be.
Would you rather have Tobias or Josh Richardson?
How old is Josh Richardson?
He's probably 2 years younger than Butler, I think.
I would take Tobias. I would take Tobias.
I like Richardson.
Very good player.
Josh
Richardson's a good player.
I'd be okay with either of those guys. Like if you're trying to strong arm Miami into a deal that includes both Richardson and Bam, is it Adebayo? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah,
kid from Kentucky. And a first-round pick, and you get rid of Gorgie Jang's contract in that deal, I think that's a good deal. And I know people are saying, oh, the Wolves are crazy. They'll never get that deal. That's not going to happen. Okay, well, if that's what you say, I'm not going to make this deal unless this is what it is. Then stick to your guns, okay? I don't care what Glenn Taylor says or, how he's trying to, make this deal happen despite Tibbs and Layden being practical to their approach. I don't care what he says. I know he's the owner. But Tibbs gets the reality of the situation. If the Wolves don't win this season, he's going to get fired. If they don't make the playoffs, he's getting fired. So he is making this move with his job, his situation in mind, and I can't fault him for that. No way.
Tibbs is a dinosaur coach in his philosophy too.
He is 100%.
Here's what I'm doing if I'm the Wolves. This is the ultimate scenario.
Yeah.
I would trade all the guys, in my opinion, like let Tyus and Jimmy Butler go to a place like San Antonio so they can win and get paid. Trade Jeff Teague somewhere where he can be a veteran piece on a winning team. Let D Rose and Karl Towns figure it out. If they can't, then fold the team.
Fold it up.
Just fold it up. Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I like.
It's probably not going to happen, but that's probably the best scenario.
Where your mind's at, and I guess the one thing that I'm really excited about for this Timberwolves season is watching Derrick Rose, because I have this gut feeling that, I mean, he's still got something left in the tank. We saw a little bit of it last year. Derrick Rose got something left, and I think he's happy to be in a place that he feels comfortable. He's happy to be away from all of the distractions that have kind of plagued him over the last couple of years. You know, he left the NBA for a while. He just couldn't do it anymore. You know, between the injuries and the outside noise, he was accused of rape. You know, guy's been through a lot in his career. But it seems like he's in a good place right now, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the court.
Yes, I am too, and it's crazy. I would have never guessed 7 years ago that people were talking about Jimmy Butler getting traded, and people just forget that Derrick Rose is still on the Timberwolves. Quite frankly, he might be the best player on the Timberwolves if he's healthy. So yeah, you never know.
That's way too much. All right, tone it back a little bit.
If he's healthy? Like, I'm talking about vintage Derrick Rose. If he's healthy, it's hard to come back from those injuries.
There's no way that he's going to ever be that again. There's no way he's going to be that again.
That's not opportunity. He has to. I mean, that's like last year in the playoffs. So, and he gets the opportunity to be Derrick Rose. I mean, you never know. I'm not going to bet on it because he's probably not going to get that opportunity with someone like Karl Towns on the team. But if he's healthy and you give him the ball and feature him, you never know.
You never know.
Never know.
Couple quick things before we wrap up the show today. The Wild opened the season yesterday with a loss. Do you care? Do you follow hockey?
Not in the slightest bit.
Not in the slightest bit. Why is that?
I know that's like sacrilegious in Minnesota, right? But
it's sacrilegious. You've been here long enough.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if they're good, I'll hop on the bandwagon. I went to a Wild playoff game one time, one of the most unreal sports experiences I've ever had in my life.
Wild fans are awesome. They're awesome.
Yes,
they pack that X out. They're so passionate. Minnesota fans are so passionate about their hockey. It's great.
Yeah, it was great.
It should be. We are the state of hockey. It's Minnesota. It's cold up here a lot more than it's warm. We should be good at hockey, right?
Yeah, it's cold right now.
As a white guy, though, I know there are black guys in the NHL, but is it a cultural thing? It just hockey just doesn't appeal, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Tiger effect. I don't think any black folks watched golf before Tiger got good.
Yeah.
Or not many. But, I actually learned there's a good hockey book called Black Ice. Talks about it doesn't talk about the slave trade, but it talks about how there's a huge hockey community in Canada, specifically like Halifax, because the slave ships went up to Halifax as the last stop. Obviously dropped off a bunch of slaves. So there's there was, I don't know if it still is, a huge black population up in Halifax and a bunch of black hockey players. It was like the Negro leagues for hockey up there. It was actually, I only read like half of it, but it was an interesting book.
That is interesting. Yeah. But you still, despite that, are not a hockey fan. Just never
Absolutely
really
not.
Get into it.
Absolutely not. No.
Can you skate?
I played hockey.
Did you really?
Hockey. I played hockey for a year. When in Bloomington they wouldn't let me play up basketball, and I was too young, so I played hockey for like 4 weeks, and then practices were at like 6 a.m. for ice time. So I was like, nope, I'm out.
Interesting. I never knew that about you. I've known you almost my whole life and had no idea.
I could skate. I was fast, but I could not stop. Luis Mendoza.
Oh, man. Also, I want to apologize. It just sounded weird, like a white guy just being like, why do black guys not like hockey? That was a really weird question.
No, it wasn't. It's all good. It's a fair question.
Are you sure? Like, as soon as it came out, I was like, why did I ask that? That was really weird.
That's a fair question. I think probably because I actually had the same conversation about soccer. A friend of mine who actually works at our company, he thinks that soccer is going to be huge in the black community in like 5 years.
Why is that?
I was like, he just thinks soccer is a growing sport. And I was like, there's no way, just because there's not enough like popular black soccer players.
Yeah.
So, and if they are, they're generally like foreign African or whatever. And, it's just not quite the same. So,
interesting. I could see that happening though.
There are more black people. What do you say?
Yeah, I said maybe if the United signed a couple guys that they could relate to and were good in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.